Whoa, Bitcoin just crashed last night to $88,000 and the markets are melting down. ETF outflows hit record highs, but today we're going to show you what the insiders are saying about what's coming next for Bitcoin. Before we talk about what Cameron Winklevoss and the $850 billion giant Standard Chartered said, let's start today's show with what the CIO of Bitwise, Matt Hogan, just said this morning.
I do exactly agree with Tom. I think we're nearing a bottom. I look at this as a great buying opportunity for long-term investors. You know, Bitcoin was the first thing to turn over before this broader market pullback. It was sort of the canary in the coal mine, signaling that there was some risk in all sorts of risk on assets. I think it'll be the first thing to bottom, and I agree with Tom. We're getting very close to that point. So I think it's an exciting opportunity, again, for people who are looking out a year or more into the future.
And again, this is not investing advice here at Simply Bitcoin, but I will say this, you know, what I see in the market sentiment is extreme fear. And that's usually not what you see at the top of a euphoria phase, right? Also, Cameron Winklevoss, you know, posted something really interesting. Of course, you know, he is in the business of selling Bitcoin. So, you know, we have to disclose that incentive, obviously. But let's take a look at some of this data. Let's start with this. Opti, what am I looking at here, bro?
This is Eric Balkunis. He is the, I think it's head ETF analyst at Bloomberg. And just read the tweet and then we'll break it down.
Bitcoin ETFs with $250 million in outflows, $3 billion out in past month, about 2.5% of total assets, 97.5% hanging in there, still 23 billion year to date, which is amazing. People forget just how much lifting was done 18 months prior to sell-off. All told, not too bad considering the extreme fear mood.
Yeah, so the reason it's interesting to watch this, Nico, is as I've been making the case for the last couple of weeks, I even made the case very strong on yesterday's show, is retail is no longer in control. And with that comes a bunch of different kind of avenues that we have to look at. One is mainly the idea that institutions are the ones that are in control of the market right now. So therefore, you would look at the ETF inflows and outflows. And if we're seeing $3 billion of outflows in the last month, you know, 250 million doesn't sound like too much, but we are seeing that the ETF, or rather the clients of these ETFs, they're panicking themselves. But what you're seeing is the majority of the Bitcoin held in these ETFs are still holding very strong. And this is kind of my greater theory, and I'll break this down a little bit later after Nico gets through the rest of the source material. But as we see retail panicking, I don't know if you guys are catching the sentiment on Twitter right now, but your favorite influencers, your favorite Bitcoiners are starting to feel the pain. They're starting to get scared. I know me and Luke were joking this morning, and again, we're trolling. This was complete trolling. We're looking at the price last night and we're like, it's time to sell out completely, bro. Like, you know, we're obviously trolling, but that, you know, once you see your most bullish Bitcoiners start to get bearish, there's two things that are going on. Either we all are seeing the end of, or the 4-year cycle intact, or the sentiment is just changing right now, and we really, again, have no idea what the price is going to do. I'm still convinced. I'm still pretty bullish. But anyways, let's get to the rest of the source material, Nico.
Absolutely. We have a ton of really good source material today. So first, let's start off with the Cameron Winklevoss tweet. He says, this is the last time you'll ever be able to buy Bitcoin below $90,000, right? And again, he said that yesterday at 10:31 p.m.
Literally right when it dropped.
And, you know, we wake up this morning, I think it went back to 95, right? So we're currently channeling a little bit. Here's a really interesting CoinDesk article. It says Bitcoin sell-off likely complete. Rally into year-end still in play. Stand chart analyst says. So what to know? Bitcoin's recent sell-off may be nearing its end, according to Geoffrey Kendrick of Standard Chartered, who sees the current pullback as the third major 30% correction since last year's introduction of spot Bitcoin ETFs in the US. Key market indicators, including MicroStrategy's modified NAV, have dropped to zero, suggesting seller exhaustion. Year-end rally remains his base case. Moving on to this next article by Yahoo Finance. The name of the article is Bitcoin Price Under Pressure Drops Below 92,000 as Self-Fulfilling Prophecy Puts 4-Year Cycle in Focus. The drop is prompting questions about whether this remains a temporary correction or the beginning of another 4-year cycle that led to a longer-term sell-off. Quote, this self-fulfilling prophecy has led to a market sell-off for Bitcoin in Q4 2025, Bernstein analyst said. That's a really interesting kind of thing to unpack there, right? So there's two camps, and we've been talking about this. It's kind of been like the theme of the show the last 2 weeks, really since October underperformed. This idea of the 4-year cycle. And there's people that feel very differently about the 4-year cycle. But again, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy if enough people believe in that theory, right? If a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's over, sell it, get out, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, there's two things that I think are, the meme, I'm going to say it, that could make it so that this time is different, right? First of all is the amount of institutional interest. I don't think you guys understand. Look, the amount of Bitcoin that's actively being mined every single day is significantly less than the amount of Bitcoin that's being bought by institutions. So eventually that creates a supply crunch, right? And then, obviously number goes up. But the self-fulfilling prophecy aspect, I think, is really interesting because, again, if most people are thinking, okay, the 4-year cycle is over, we're going back down to $30,000, let me get out so I can 3x my Bitcoin position potentially, it just becomes this snowball effect, right? Which again, like you see the sentiment on this isn't just my opinion. You see the sentiment on Twitter. Opti, if you can pull that up, the greed and fear index, we're at extreme fear, right? And what tends to happen in euphoria phases, first of all, we never had a euphoria phase. That's number one. Number two, when you enter a euphoria phase, you have extreme greed, right? Like everyone and their mother believes this thing is going to go up forever. They don't think it's just going to turn around, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind, right? And then the next thing I think is a really interesting article, or not article but CryptoQuant. The biggest BTC accumulation in the middle of the sell-off. This anomaly demands explanation. Strong hands are absorbing supply at a pace that historically preceded tops, yet prices showing bottom-like behavior. Historically, whenever demand from addresses that don't sell spikes aggressively, Bitcoin tends to rally and form local tops. It's as if these holders are absorbing circulating supply, push the market into a supply squeeze, trigger a short-term rally, and once their demand cools off, price usually pulls back. But this time, something is broken. Since October 6th, demand from these permanent holders has surged from 159K BTC to 345K BTC, the largest absorption we've seen in recent cycles. Yet instead of a rally, price has moved sharply lower. Right now, strong hands are accumulating massive amounts of Bitcoin while the broader market sits in extreme fear and billions of dollars are in unrealized losses. When demand from holders who never sell rises this fast during a downward trend, it usually sets the stage for one of two high probability outcomes. Number one, a meaningful rally driven by a deep supply absorption that later allows these investors to distribute into renewed retail demand. Note, smart money is absorbing panic selling at a discount. Once retail capitulates completely, we see a powerful rally as supply dries up. Number two, a final leg down. where price washes out what remains of market appetite before a more durable trend can form. Note, price has significantly more downside ahead. This accumulation could be catching falling knives. If BTC breaks lower, it destroys the appetite for accumulation entirely, forcing even stronger hands to reconsider. In both cases, the signal is the same. Long-term capital is stepping in aggressively. And if I want you guys to get one thing from this intro, this is what I want you guys to focus on. If you are selling your Bitcoin right now out of fear, right? I saw a video by British Hodl, and he was just like making fun of everyone, basically. Like, you cry babies, you're selling your Bitcoin. He obviously believes that, the 4-year cycle is over. We're going higher. But one thing is clear. If you are selling your Bitcoin right now, you're selling it to institutions that are more than happy to buy that up. AKA, or another way to saying a different truth is this. You're selling your Bitcoin to Larry Fink. If you're selling your Bitcoin right now, you're selling it to Larry Fink.
Jamie Dimon.
And Jamie Dimon. This divergence rarely lasts long. And when it resolves, it tends to resolve with force. Not financial advice, but this is one of those moments where staying data-driven, not sentiment-driven, tends to matter most. Completely agree. So let's take a look at some of these graphics. BTC 30-day demand change, right? And it says permanent holder addresses and ETFs. And then BTC 30-day demand change, permanent holder addresses and ETFs, right? So I think it's painting a clear picture. And here is a post. Again, you heard the CIO of Bitwise earlier, Matt Hogan, talk about this. Whales buying the Bitcoin dip, right? So as you can see, number of entities with balances of 1,000 Bitcoin or more. You're selling it to institutions, ladies and gentlemen. And look at the difference. Like, I want you guys, this is like one of the most important graphics out of all of this. I want you guys to pay attention to what happened to those addresses in the last pump, right? Those addresses that held 1,000 Bitcoin or more, they actually unloaded. They actually unloaded that last pump. The pump from like 50K, roughly 50K to 100,000, the one in the middle of 2025, before Trump fat-fingered Truth Social post, they unloaded. They're like, okay, this is over. Look at that hockey stick up. It's literally a line up. So these are whales that, again, are saying, oh, Bitcoin's under $100,000. That's a deal. You know who also is a whale? Cameron Winklevoss, right? This is the last time you'll ever be able to buy Bitcoin below 90K. And this is what I think makes this cycle fundamentally different from the rest of them. And again, it's the meme. This time is different. We might have pie on our face, 6 months from now, while this thing just slowly grinds down and the cycle is over, right? The truth is that nobody really knows, right? We can just report the news as the news comes and try to analyze it and try to give you guys our perspective on this. But when I see this, when I see tweets like this, when I see information like this, there's so much alpha in this information. These are literally whales buying Bitcoin falling off a cliff. They're literally just accumulating Bitcoin. And again, you could say, all right, Nico, but this time isn't different. This is a 4-year cycle. I would say you're wrong. 2025 was a red year. So we didn't get the meme 3 green, 1 red. We got 2 green, 1 red, and then 2026 is yet to be determined, right? If the price keeps going down from here, 2025, the year after the halving, was not a parabola year. It was not a blow off top. it was a distribution year. Meaning we've technically, if Bitcoin stays where it's at right now or goes lower, 2025, you could say, was a bear market year. Because we're definitely not in a bull market. We definitely didn't pump. We've gone sideways. We've gone sideways. And you know who's buying? The whales are buying. The whales are buying hardcore. They're letting you know. They're letting you know between the lines, and the information doesn't lie. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know a lot of people that have 1,000 Bitcoin or more. It's like $100 million these days. And the people that are worth $100 million these days, you know what they're doing? They're buying Bitcoin. You know what Cameron Winklevoss is saying? Hey, this might be your last time to buy under 90K. You know what Michael Saylor is saying? We played you guys a clip on yesterday's episode. If you guys want to check it out, we're possibly bottoming out here. And MicroStrategy had one of their biggest buys in a very long time. They bought $800 million worth of Bitcoin. So, you know, Michael Saylor says he's not a trader. He says this all the time, right? He says that, you know, you should buy Bitcoin with a minimum of a 4-year time scale in your mind. But simultaneously, what I want you guys to internalize is they're telling you, not only are they telling you, but they're putting their money where their mouth is. If Michael Saylor believed we were going down, I don't think he would have smash bought $800 million worth of Bitcoin. And I think he smash bought, I think it was like 102,000 or something like that. Right? So he's already down on that $800 million buy. But I think people are underestimating the amount of institutional interest. And I would say that the reason that Bitcoin did not pump in 2025 like it's done in previous cycles is literally because I think there might be some Wall Street shenanigans to try to shake you out of your bags. And what is the best way to try to shake you out of your bags? Boredom. Because you know one of the hardest things to do as a hodler is to sit through long periods of which Bitcoin does absolutely nothing. And you know one of the hardest things on top of that to do as a hodler is for you to do nothing whatsoever at all, zero, while the expectation of a parabola year happens and Bitcoin literally does nothing. I think this is I saw one of the charts. This is one of the first years that Bitcoin, it literally went sideways. In all of Bitcoin's history, Bitcoin's either had a really green year or a really red year. It's never had a 0% year. It's never had a year where, you know, we're about to have Thanksgiving, at least in the US, and literally, I kid you not, your grandfather or your father or whatever could literally flex on you saying, I outperformed you buying the S&P 500. Or if they're a gold bug, I outperformed you buying gold. Like, that is effing unheard of. That is unheard of, right? So what I'm reading into, like, what I'm reading into this, and I'm saying, look, it's clear who's buying if you're selling Bitcoin right now, it's clear who's buying it. It's clear that the amount of institutional interest has never been as high as it is today. Opti posted this in the beginning. We were talking about it. This is how we started the show. The Eric Balkunas screenshot. Bitcoin ETFs with $250 million in outflows. $3 billion out in past month. About 2.5% of total assets. 97.5% hanging in there. Still 23 billion year to date, which is amazing. People forget how much lifting was done 18 months prior to sell-off. All told, not too bad considering the extreme fear mood. So I think that this is a transformational year for Bitcoin. I think that you had a lot of OGs selling their bags to estate plan, to do a bunch of other things that you want to do, upgrade your lifestyle. And the market has absorbed that. And another silver lining that I'll add to this is if I'm wrong and we do enter a bear market, we've already had a year of a bear market. We've had a year of a bear market at this point. Trump's presidency has been a bear market presidency so far. That's why we were making the jokes of like, bring back Biden last week, bring back, Kamala cackling, because, that's the reality. So are you trying to tell me that year 2, because president terms in the United States are not that long, they're only 4-year terms. Are you telling me that 2 years of the first pro-Bitcoin president heading into the midterms, which we're going to be talking a little bit more about that later on in the show, are you telling me that 2 years into his presidency, Bitcoin is not going to make an all-time high of when he was inaugurated, when it was at $109,000? I'm sorry, guys. I personally don't see that. I think that a lot of people have bought into this 4-year cycle theory. As that article said, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't emphasize that enough. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now, in my opinion. I think a lot of people are seeing this, they're seeing the writing on the wall, and they're saying, hey, you know what? Bitcoin is doing what Bitcoin does. It's following the 4-year cycle. But if you pay attention to the whales, they're buying. They're buying at record amounts. Like, look at this green line. And then my perspective on this is, do you think that they would be doing this if they didn't think we were going another leg up? And another thing too is, like, we had Mauricio, co-founder of Ledin, like very early on in the year on the show. And I remember he was telling me in Opti, like, look, it's different now. You're going to have this like institutional buying of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's going to go up like a staircase. And me and Opti were like bummed out at the time because we're like dopamine addicts. And then you know what ended up happening? Exactly what Mauricio said. So, all things considered, if you zoom out, we're down 25%, 30%. That's still corrections like every other correction we've had. I think we've had like 3 or 4 of them this cycle that have been in the 25, 30% region. I think the only thing that is different this time is the fact that no one could really get a read on the market. All the tools and all the patterns that have held true in Bitcoin's previous cycles and previous bull markets have not worked. None of the top indicators hit, right? We never entered a euphoria phase. I would say the last euphoria phase that Bitcoin had was in November and December of 2024. So it's been a year, and it was a slight euphoria, right? And I want to ask you guys, do you remember the last time Bitcoin pumped? I don't remember what that feels like. It's been a year, 365 days. I'm a year older. Opti's a year older. I have a daughter. She's like 2 now. And Bitcoin has literally gone sideways. And year to date, it's red. So, again, I think applying this 4-year cycle theory onto Bitcoin right now, I think it's wrong. And I think the 4-year cycle is already broken. That's my opinion, bro. I think it's already broken. That doesn't mean that 2026 can't be more of a bear market. I don't foresee a 70, 80% drawdown. I just don't foresee that happening just because, like, look, it literally, like, it if you don't have a crazy parabola, you're not going to have the hangover that comes with it, right? So there is a silver lining to this, and the silver lining is like, okay, you won't have as much of a hangover, right? But I think the other thing that we have to take into account is like, look, guys, like, we are in uncharted territory. Right now, no one has any idea what Bitcoin's going to do. But I could show you guys the facts. And the facts are, if you're selling right now, institutions are buying it. There's not enough Bitcoin being mined right now at this moment that is enough to fulfill the needs of institutions. And the price is going sideways. I think some shenanigans are being played. I think some games are being played. And I think it's all made to separate you from your Bitcoin. And I think this is where British Hodl, I think, hits the nail on the head when he's like, basically, like, I think smoking a cigar in like Switzerland or something. I saw the video, and he's like, look, like, we don't use that type of wording on the show, but like, it's like, you know, you guys are all sissies. I'll leave it at that. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this, bro? Because maybe I'm seeing things that are not real.
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm fully convinced right now that Wall Street is trying to shake out retail. Especially when you kind of connect this with all the accumulation that we're seeing right now. You know, whales buying in the midst of the sell-off last night at down to 89K. We saw huge accumulation. To me, it just points that, one, retail is absolutely scared. And I'm considering all of us retail here. We're not the whales, we're not the institutions here. I know Bitcoiners like to separate themselves from like standard, normie retail, but we're all considered retail. And just kind of vibe checking on Twitter amongst my friends and amongst, people I talk offline, or rather, DMs and text messages. The sentiment right now is it's over. 4-year cycle confirmed. We're going lower. Everyone's saying 85K is the new 58K gang. 58K gang never left. Personally, it feels like this whole year has been a shakeout. And, a lot of this is just like, I am the source, my intuition basically saying. But as we've seen, the institutions now are here. A lot of the stuff that they're saying publicly is very conservative, but they are starting to be a little more bullish on Bitcoin. And I can only imagine what they're thinking behind the scenes. Again, I'm thinking of that one meme where they're all laughing. It's like, hey, we told them, Bitcoin bear market is coming 2026. And yet here we are buying. That seems to be what we're seeing right now. As everyone starts to kind of gain consensus that the 4-year cycle is intact, that we are going into a bear market, or rather maybe 2025 was the bear market, you're starting to see accumulation happen. And I think that only really sets up something for the next leg up. If people that have been around for a long time, if it's the institutions, if it's just whales, market makers, etc., now they're starting to accumulate Bitcoin, then it always kind of begs the question, what do they know? What do they know that we don't know? And so I think it's been a shakeout. I think this whole year has been a shakeout. It's really been, testing, not I wouldn't say our convictions here, because you guys control us all you want, because we've been covering the Bitcoin price recently, because that's what people are searching for. Everyone's wondering what's going on with the Bitcoin price. The fundamentals of Bitcoin haven't changed. If anything, they've gotten better, but the price has reacted like no one thought it was going to. And so even though everyone's watching this and not really understanding what's going on, it does make you think that this time is different. It does make you think, things are changing, or if it's that Bitcoin IPO moment. And so to me, it just feels like, I don't know, I'm not going to call it like I did yesterday. I was kind of trolling, but it does feel like the bottom is in. I'm still convinced in this kind of stairway to heaven type meme right now. Again, I could be completely wrong. You know, what do I know, etc. But that seems to be what's playing out. And I even said it to Luke this morning. And Nico kind of said it a minute ago. Is like every kind of indicator that Bitcoiners have been using historically are being tested right now. They're all being messed with. You know, I was talking about the 50-week moving average. That finally broke down. But then we see a bunch of accumulation on that. We saw, I mean, the only one that actually really did kind of hold up, and I was saying this yesterday, is the CME gap was finally closed. That was roughly 92, 91. It did kind of get some cascading liquidations under it. So, like, if the CME gap, the futures gap is still holding, dude, it might be bullish. We might be bullish. I don't know, man. Hey, it's just like my opinion, bro.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, none of this is like financial advice. And like, look, like at the end of the day, you know, no one really knows what Bitcoin's gonna do. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're straight up lying to you. And I think 2025 was a great example of the fact that no one really knows where Bitcoin is going. And again, you know, we're here to, you know, be your guide through the separation of money and state. And again, just experience this Bitcoin roller coaster. I wouldn't even call it a Bitcoin roller coaster. What do you call Bitcoin this year? The flat part of the roller coaster? The part where you get out of the roller coaster?
It's a wave pool.
It's a wave. I don't even know what that is. What is a wave pool?
It's just flat and waves crashing on you the whole time.
So yeah, I mean, you know, welcome to the Bitcoin wave pool. I can't even, what is a wave pool? I don't even know what that is, bro.
Dude, it's a pool that makes waves.
Oh, okay. All right.
And they just crash on your head. You haven't seen those memes of like tourists in the wave pool and they're just like breaking on their heads? And yeah, that's what's going on.
So yeah, you know, it's very interesting, but I want you guys to take this from today's intro segment, which is, if you're selling right now, you're selling to whales. If you're selling right now, you're selling to institutions. Why are those institutions buying? Why is Michael Saylor saying, hey, look, you know, there's a tremendous amount of institutional demand? Why is Michael Saylor buying $800 million worth of Bitcoin at $102,000 per coin? Right. So, you know, you don't know the future. You know, things could change. The sentiment can change. Sentiment changes very, very, very quickly. I mean, look at today, right? Price goes up a little bit and, you know, all of a sudden, you know, the sentiment has changed, right? So we're going to take it day by day, but the advice remains the same. It's never changed. We've never wavered with this piece of advice, and you'll succeed in the Bitcoin world if you take this advice. Stay humble, stack sats, buy Bitcoin, put that Bitcoin into self-custody. This is how we win. This is how the revolution spreads. So, you know, enjoy the ride as it goes. Clearly, we went through a very boring part of the ride, extremely boring part of the ride. But again, I'll pass it on to you. No, next thing I'll say too is like, look, guys, if Bitcoin doesn't go up, it fails. Right. And that's a part that like I don't hear enough people talk about. Like the success of Bitcoin is binary. Like it either goes up or it goes down. If it goes sideways, it literally fails. It needs to go up for it to be adopted. And as long as governments continue to print money, you know, it's Knut Svanholm's meme that went viral. It's infinity divided by 21 million. It's as simple as that. So anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show lined up for you guys today. We're super hyped about it. We have a sick clip of Andreas Antonopoulos we're going to play for you guys. And then during the news segment, seems like the Trump administration is being attacked for their stance on crypto, on Bitcoin. What a surprise, right? This is why it's so important to really pay attention to what's going to be happening during the midterms. You want pro-Bitcoin, anti-CBDC candidates in power. You don't want pro-CBDC, anti-Bitcoin candidates in power. I mean, what is happening in Europe is heartbreaking. They're going straight down the central bank digital currency, digital ID route. and it's not good. So anyways, guys, we're going to be right back in just a second. But before we get into it, I do want to give a very special shout out to our lead sponsor, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. The reason we recommend bitcoinwell.com is they don't hold your keys. When you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. It's a non-custodial Bitcoin exchange, one of the only in the United States. We recommend it here at Simply Bitcoin exactly because of that. If you're a high net worth individual, a trust, a family office, an organization, and you want to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, and you want a tailored white glove service that literally helps you get your Bitcoin from the on-ramp to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, you have to check out the Bitcoin Well Infinite product. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC, schedule a meeting with their team today, and tell them your friends over at Simply Bitcoin sent you. They'll take really, really good care of you. All right, everybody, no more delay. Let's jump straight into the show. We have tons to cover. We'll be right back. I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, go to stampseed.com today. Check out their 12-word seed plate. It just released, ladies and gentlemen. Again, stamp your seed phrase on titanium. Go to stampseed.com today. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. Excuse me. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $93,370. Block height, 924,185. Market cap, 1.86 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 6.47%. Decline from all-time high, 26%. So if you're buying Bitcoin right now, you're getting it at a 26% discount. Anyways, I saw this fire clip from, again, we've been playing Andreas Antonopoulos bangers all week, and I saw a banger from the man, the myth, the legend himself. Let's check it out.
We stand at a crossroads because right now, the world governments are trying to abolish cash. They're trying to abolish the very last lifeline that remains for the billions of people who have a life of poverty, not because they don't work, they work harder than all of us. Not because they don't deserve, but simply because of where they were born, or what documentation they have, or what level of literacy they have, or even how they look. In Saudi Arabia, women are not allowed to own property and bank accounts. And this is the case in half a dozen countries around the world. And we look at that and say, shame on them, that's immoral, that's disgusting. And then we turn around and we do the same thing to immigrants in this country and my country. I'm half British, half American. I have to apologize to 194 countries around the world the moment I arrive. And I know in my heart that every time I pay taxes, I'm killing thousands of people by proxy. I still pay because I'm also helping people who are in welfare, people who need help. But most importantly, when we make these moral choices, we have to understand surveillance never stopped crime. Surveillance is the license given to the people who are on the top of that to control our lives. they will commit crimes. They will commit the worst of crimes, what I call mega crimes. And I know Britain doesn't use the metric system, so mega is the prefix we use for millions. A mega crime is one where, for example, you foreclose on 1 million homeowners and don't go to jail. That's a mega crime. We're doing surveillance and analytics to catch a petty drug dealer who's selling pot for Bitcoin. Who's doing surveillance and analytics on Lockheed Martin? Who's doing surveillance and analytics on the money laundering banks? Nobody. Do you know why? None of them ever go to jail. The regulators are completely captured, and the very system of controlling finance from above by having levers of power over the lives of millions of people, billions of people, of having the audacity to cut off entire countries and say, well, they're under sanctions. They're not privileged enough, they're not people enough to gain financial services. Guess who that attracts? If you build levers of power like that, the very worst sociopaths in our society are attracted like flies to shit to grab hold of those levers of power and destroy all of your freedoms as quickly as they can. We are building.
So Andreas Antonopoulos dropping the hot fire like he always does, man. His videos they were instrumental to my orange pill journey and me getting into Bitcoin. And what he's pointing out is the hypocrisy, right? Christine Lagarde is a convicted felon. I'm going to don't take my word for it. Go verify this yourself. She got convicted of a crime, and she's now the head of the European Central Bank. What he said about banks, when banks get caught money laundering for Mexican drug cartels and such, and criminal organizations, they get slapped with fines. When our industry gets accused of the same thing, Arthur Hayes, prison. CZ, prison. The other thing is blanking on me, and it was so good. The Samurai Wallet developers making open source software for privacy. For privacy. This is what they forget to tell you about the Samurai guys. 90+% of people that were using Samurai were using it for privacy-related reasons. They weren't using Samurai to commit crimes. So there's a two-tier justice system. And it has nothing to do with stopping petty criminals. It has nothing to do with stopping crime. It has everything to do with closing, to use Christine Lagarde's own words, the escape valve. That is literally what it has to do with. It has nothing to do with anything else. Because if they hold those same people to the same rules that they use to jail all these other people, a lot of these bankers would be in jail. No banker went to jail for what happened in 2008. What happened in 2008 and 2009 and the amount of people that lost their homes. It was a financial crime of it was like the financial crime of the century. How they bailed out the big banks. How Main Street bailed out Wall Street. And there was no one was held accountable. But for our industry, if we do even a sliver of, hey, actually we're building open source software for privacy, they lock you in a box. Look at what they did to Ross. They tried to make an example out of him. What they're doing to the Samurai developers, they're doing the same thing. They're making an example out of him. And they're saying, if you build open source software for privacy, you can go to jail. If you want to know why Satoshi Nakamoto is anonymous and remains anonymous today, that is literally the reason. That is the reason. Because if Satoshi were around today, he would be in a box. He would be in jail. And they would say, you enabled unlicensed money transmitting by creating Bitcoin. By creating this open source software that allows anyone from around the world to access money and therefore interact with the global economy. Before they weren't able to do this, we're going to put you in a box for that. And that's exactly what Andreas was talking about. This is a two-tier system. As long as you let the powers that be do what they do, it's okay. We're going to slap you with a fine. It's just a fine. You didn't know any better. It's a fine. We're going to fine you. But if you build from outside the system, which, by the way, the sovereign individual predicted this, we're going to put you in a box. I'm going to paint you as a criminal. It's unjust. It's completely unjust. And don't let them make you feel like you are a criminal because you choose to use a money that doesn't steal from you. And you choose to keep that money in self-custody. Don't let them wordsmith and propagandize you into thinking that somehow that is a danger to society. It's not a danger to society. What it is, it exposes their system. And that is the crux of it. That's what it comes down to. And you know, about this year, we were just talking about the price in the beginning. We were talking about ETFs. We were talking about, hey, the bull market isn't over because you know what? You have all these institutions buying. You know what? As much as I love the institutions pumping my bags, guys, why are we here? Why are we here? We're here to separate money from state. We're here to fix the money, fix the world. And I think that's what people have forgotten. This is literally why Bitcoin was invented. Satoshi knew. He wrote it in the Genesis block. Chancellor, on the brink of the second bailout for banks, he knew that banks were going to continue debasing the currency, and that disproportionately affects the lower and middle classes the most. So the poorest people in a society get affected the most by the current system. And what is that but not tyrannical? What is that but not unjust? We always get fed this by politicians about the cost of living, the cost of housing. Everything's too expensive. Bro, dude, gal, you're the ones debasing the currency, not us. Right? So Bitcoin is our way to protest against that system in a peaceful way. It's saying enough is enough. I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. I want to be able to live my life, put my money, put my energy, put my time into something that can't be taken away from me. This is what Bitcoin is. This is what self-custody is all about. And I hope that people have not forgotten the primary mission. The reason that Simply Bitcoin was even born. We used to say this in the beginning of every single show. We're here to guide you through the separation of money and state. That is the mission. The mission is millions upon millions of individuals reclaiming back their financial sovereignty by taking their Bitcoin and putting it into self-custody. You want to change the world. You want to make things better. You want to make things more affordable. That's how you do it. Help us. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell your parents. Opti.
Classic Nico crash out. Love to see it. I'm not going to rehash what you said because I can't follow that out. But the one thing that Andreas said in that clip that I think most people forget is we have like the most laws ever now. We're the most surveilled society ever. And yet it seems like we have the most crime ever. So just on like a basic kind of overview of that idea, it's like what is actually going on? Are we safer because we have all these new laws? Is this actually making us safe? And Andreas was touching on it. It's like when you boil everything down, it all boils down to like simple concepts, power and control, and who actually has the power and who are they trying to control. And this is why we always go back to, it's about the money. The money is broken. The money is controlled. And if you can control the money, then you can control society. And this is why we are Bitcoiners. This is why we started this show. This is why we've committed our whole lives to Bitcoin, is because we think that once more people use Bitcoin, then I'm not saying we're going to be, doing crazy stuff. I'm just saying that they won't be able to control everyone via the same mechanisms that they're doing. You need to own a money that they cannot stop. And society, I think, in the long term, eventually will ripple out and things will change for the better. Once people understand that, hey, all this stuff we're seeing, whether it's new laws, whether it's new surveillance tech, hence why I always give Nico some shit around about Palantir and Peter Thiel and stuff. This is not making our society safer. This is not doing any of the narratives they tell us. This is all about control and clamping down on the average everyday citizen. And this is why we're Bitcoiners. So classic crash out by Nico. Love to see it. That people are saying in the chat, this is why they come here. So classic.
Guys, we still have a lot to cover. We're going to hit the news. We're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY. All right, everybody, we are back. I was just talking about taking self-custody. Guys, literally go to bitkey.world today. This is literally the easiest self-custody Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market today. You literally put your fingerprint. It knows who you are. You tap on your phone. Bam, bing, bam, boom. You're ready to send. Has inheritance built in. It has multi-sig built in. Scan the QR code down below. Check the link in the video/podcast description. It's a perfect gift to give to somebody that perhaps is a little bit intimidated by self-custody. BitKey makes it incredibly intuitive and incredibly easy. I can't recommend it enough. All right, everybody, let's get to the next bit of news. Very interesting. I don't know what's happening, guys, but the attacks are coming back. I'm not a big fan of 60 Minutes, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you a couple reasons as to why I'm not a big fan. So we obviously do podcasts, right? We do professional podcasts. We do extremely high production podcasts. We just dropped one with Paolo Arduino, the CEO of Tether, last night, and they look incredible. High production. We can match the production that legacy media can. This is the awesome part about today's world. Is like, yes, we can buy the same cameras. We can buy the same equipment. I would even say we can even do better editing, right? And maybe that'll trigger some people in legacy media, but I stand by that. But one of the things that 60 Minutes does, which is quite interesting, and Trump actually sued 60 Minutes for this, was that when you do a 60 Minutes interview, they selectively edit and then they narrate it. So imagine if you have an hour-and-a-half podcast, 60 Minutes will clip portions of that podcast. Like they'll take little sound bits and then they'll narrate what's happening. So it's like as if Opti like was talking to me and we were just having a conversation, and Opti's like, all right, like, hey, Opti, like, how do you feel? Like, are we going into a bear market?
No.
And but like, keep going. I'm trying to make an example.
No, because of the fundamentals and the accumulation.
So what Opti was saying is that he doesn't actually believe that we're going into a bear market. That's what they do. Like, I'm kidding you. Like, I kid you not. Trump did an interview on 60 Minutes the other day, and the White House was really smart. So they released the 60 Minutes episode on prime time. And what the White House did was that they posted the entire 1 hour and a half interview. And it's totally different than the episode that they posted, because the episode that they posted, they editorialize it. They try to create a narrative. How do you create a narrative out of a conversation? Let people watch the entire conversation and let them come to their own conclusions. And they did this during the election. They asked Kamala Harris a question. They didn't like her answer. So they took an answer from another part of the interview and they put that in. Do you think that's ethical? Is that journalism? Like, that's bonkers. And Trump successfully won that interview, rightly so. Because that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a straight up lie. And this is legacy media. This is media that you're supposed, this is the authority, right? This is who you're supposed to attention to. You want to know why independent media has become so popular? It's because of this. It's because independent media, if we don't tell you guys the truth, if we don't like at least try to put on a good show for you guys won't watch the show. That's not the case with them. I don't think they're in the business of telling the news. I think they're in the business of propaganda. That's my opinion. I could be wrong here. But anyways, so let's check this out. 60 Minutes post. President Trump pardoned the billionaire founder of the largest crypto exchange in the world, Binance. It raised questions about conflicts of interest and the president's use of the pardon power. So not to get into any specifics, but the previous president, I think he broke the record for the amount of pardons that he gave on the way out. Not only that, remember what I told you about the two-tier justice system and Andreas Antonopoulos' video. Okay, so Binance, largest crypto exchange, pardon. Ooh. What about the bankers? What about if you lost your home? What about the millions of people that lost their homes? What about them? What about inflation? What about all those things? It's like, no, like none of that is focused. What the focus is it's crypto. It's the boogeyman. And it goes back to what my core messaging, what I was talking about, what I was focusing on earlier. I don't think this has anything to do with President Trump pardoning Binance or pardoning CZ. I don't think this has anything to do with President Trump getting into the Bitcoin/crypto industry. I think this has everything to do with the fact, referencing Naval's tweet the other day, is that now you have free market money competing with centralized money. And free market money is going to win every single time without coercion. If they can't coerce you into the system, I don't think they're going to win. So let's check out this article by CBS News. Trump pardon of crypto billionaire sparks concerns over his use of the pardon power. Again, it's like double standards here. And like, look how serious this is. Opti, we need to get this set up, bro. We're not serious until we could do stuff like that. Like, look at that. Like his serious face.
It's just a green screen, right?
Serious face, guy on a stool, perfectly looking at you, you know. Anyways, last month, President Trump granted a pardon to a billionaire felon after the felon company enriched a Trump family business. The pardon went to CZ, a Chinese-born businessman who was accused of the justice system of causing, quote, significant harm to U.S. national security. The president says he does not know CZ. Our reporting shows that CZ's company supported a Trump family firm at critical moments leading up to the president's pardon. CZ is a founder of Binance, the world's largest exchange for cryptocurrency or digital money on the internet. In 2023, Zhao and his company pled guilty to failing to prevent money laundering. When banks money launder for the Mexican drug cartels, slap on the wrist, you get a fine. When someone within our industry does it, you go to jail, straight to jail. Anyways, Binance paid a $4 billion fee. Zhao served a 4-month sentence. Now, here's what I think is actually happening. The previous administration had a crusade against our industry. Part of the reason Trump got elected was to end the crusade. Operation Choke Point 2.0, literally one of the Trump ran. He went to the Nashville conference and he told a whole audience, he said, hey, I'm going to end Elizabeth Warren's attack on the Bitcoin and crypto industry. That's what he did. So again, like when I hear things like this, if you're going to make this case that, oh, look, there's corruption and, you know, the Trump family business benefited from this and, you know, this and this and that, I can't take this seriously while also you telling me that the Russiagate story was real for years, while also the fact that the leading Republican candidate, who was a candidate at the time, was literally being charged in multiple states, like lawfare was being committed, multiple assassination attempts, and all of that was being downplayed. It was like the normal course of business. They raided his home in Mar-a-Lago. That's never happened before. Could you imagine it's an election year and you raid the home of your political opponent? The whole point of election, that's the whole point of the election. The whole point of the election is so that the people can decide who they want to be in power. Not the media, not the elite, not the bureaucrats. The same thing is being applied to money right now. They want to be able to decide what money you can use and what money you can't use. And as long as you're using their money, it's okay. As long as you're not using their money, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That doesn't sound too good. That doesn't sound too good. Anyways, here's someone who's the founder and chair of the Digital Chamber and Digital Power US. And she commented on this. She said, 60 Minutes ran another crypto segment last night. And once again, it was packed with bias and sensationalism over substance. This isn't new. I called out the same pattern in their coverage last year. Here's Alexander. And he says, as market structure legislation proceeds, pretty clear signals has gone out to all the ideological nonprofit groups and their media contacts. Same thing happened during Genius. From very little crypto coverage to wall crypto is bad overnight. Do you think that's a coincidence? No. They don't want the Clarity Act to pass. Do you remember how Elizabeth Warren freaked out with the Genius Act? And the reason for this is very simple, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want a competing free market currency. They don't want it. They want you with the CBDC, and they're willing to use the propaganda, media, industrial complex in order to achieve those goals. Point blank. That's what it comes down to. I don't really have anything else to add to that other than lay out the facts for you guys and let you guys come up with your own conclusion. But it's so crazy. And you know what? Our job, Opti and I's job, was significantly easier while Operation Choke Point 2.0 was happening for two reasons. Number one, the price was actually pumping. And number two, the amount of media attacks that were coming. It was the New York Times. It was the Financial Times. It was CNN. It was like left. It was left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Every single week, they would come out with something negative. There's even a very famous clip of like from China, from Chinese mainstream media or legacy media. The guy was like asked, he's like, if everyone adopts Bitcoin, we're all going to die. Like their excuses are running, or their excuses are suffering from inflation themselves, right? So anyway, those are my thoughts and opinions on all that. I'm going to pass it on to Opti. Opti, what are your thoughts? And then we'll move on to the culture bit.
Yeah, well, I've been making the case that this was going to happen basically all year, ever since Trump got into Bitcoin. And look, you know, his shit coining, not a fan of. You know, there's a lot of things from the Trump administration, from Trump himself, that I'm not a fan of. But the fact that he came out pro Bitcoin, I've been saying for a while that we are going to start to see these attacks start to accelerate. And I think the timing of these are very interesting. In the case that last tweet was saying, you know, the Clarity Act is supposedly, it was supposed to kind of be ready by Thanksgiving. And as we're seeing, the attacks are coming. And it is interesting that there is kind of this coordinated, I don't know, maybe it's like a group chat where they finally get their marching orders. And now they're like, okay, let's go out there and, you know, attack Trump for his Bitcoin, quote unquote, what do they call it? Conflict of interest. Now, you know, I'm okay with people acknowledging the conflict of interest and stuff, but you start to see the narrative shift and you start to see what they're trying to do with this. They're essentially trying to paint Bitcoin and crypto as this like Trump MAGA phenomenon. And that's really kind of scaring away half of the population here because, you know, there's so many people that don't like Trump that will literally do stuff to just spite Trump, even if it hurts themselves. And you're seeing this play out. And now, you know me, I joke on the show all the time. I'm very okay with people calling me a Bitcoin propagandist is because of stuff that we see from CNN, from what we see from the legacy media. They're no longer journalists. They are propagandists. And the only way to fight fire is with fire. This is why we are so obviously pro Bitcoin, so biased for Bitcoin, so biased that it's going to go up and win. It's because you're seeing the opposite side do the same thing, that they are just essentially painting Bitcoin as this corrupt, money laundering, you know, criminal thing because they are trying to scare people away from using it. And right now, the next tool, and I've been covering this all year, the next tool, or rather the current tool that they're using is painting Bitcoin or crypto as, you know, this right-wing Republican thing. Whereas what we've been saying for years now is Bitcoin is for anyone. The problems we are facing right now is we have broken money. Now, there's a lot of other problems as well, but the main problem is the control over fiat currency, the fact that they have to print more money, the fact that since they print more money, everyone is getting broker and broker and broker, and there's no possibility of escaping the hamster wheel. And then you add on top of that this digital ID and CBDC stuff, and it all makes perfect sense why the propaganda wings are coming out and attacking Bitcoin, painting it as a bad thing. And I'm really not surprised. I've been telling you guys this for a while, that as Bitcoin wins more, they are going to do whatever they can to kind of paint Bitcoin as this bad thing and scare people away from using it. And we're starting to see that increase in frequency, in their effect. Now, hopefully people are waking up to what is going on. Maybe not everyone is, but I know Bitcoiners are very keen to this idea. We've seen this happen for 16 years. We know how these playbooks work. If you don't just eat the, mainstream media propaganda hook, line, and sinker, then it becomes very obvious what's going on. And I think this is only going to continue to increase. Now, obviously, as Bitcoin goes up, as more people kind of escape the matrix, you're going to see the frequency of these attacks go up. But it is interesting that as the year progressed, we saw more and more attacks, and they try different narratives and they try different angles, and most of these fall flat on their face. And so we're seeing that right now. This is the current one that basically paints all of the Bitcoin industry, or I'm not the biggest fan of the crypto industry, but when people say crypto, they usually mean Bitcoin. They're painting this whole new paradigm shifting industry as a bad thing because of what one person or two people have done. And it's just a classic psyop kind of narrative propaganda machine that we've seen play out in the past. And I really don't think it's going to work in my opinion. But Nico, I do know you have to go right now. So maybe say goodbye and I will take the show from here.
Yeah, guys, love you. Go to simplybitcoin.com. Check out our latest merch if you guys want to support the show. We appreciate you. We wouldn't be here without you guys. And get yours while supplies last. The Simply Bitcoin hoodies, the t-shirts, the hats, they're all of this is flying off the shelves. So you really want to get yours while supplies last. We don't drop ship. All this, we buy the inventory beforehand, and then we send it to you directly in custom packaging. So if you guys want to support the show, go to simplybitcoin.com and get yourself some merch. All right, love you all. I'm going to pass it on to Opti. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBend.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Bend's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinbend.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, guys. You're stuck with me. So I last night and yesterday I was talking about the Mining Disrupt conference, and I was talking about just the love and appreciation from you guys. But anyways, there was a lot of good conversations that I had there. And I was kind of continuing this thought process last night. I was watching a show or a stream, a YouTube stream, I forget what it was, but they were kind of like defining terms for the movement. And it made me think, of course, in Bitcoin terms, like what are the defining terms or the defining memes? And everyone on Rumble is like, oh, meme review time. No, we're not going to do an actual meme review. We are kind of going to define some memes. And so, very simply, to capture a movement, people do need to be kind of organized, maybe not necessarily just in people coming together and like how other people do it, protesting, etc. But we do have to have defining kind of words and defining signals, as Bitcoiners like to call it, you know, shelling points. And this is why memes are so powerful. If you guys have been on the show for a while, you guys know we used to do the meme review, and you guys still yell at me because I stopped doing it. But memes are super powerful. We used to say when we did the meme review, you know, tweets are the bullets and memes are the artillery, if I did that correctly. And so I was just thinking about this, like, what are the defining memes to me that really kind of emphasize what this movement is? And I am going to connect some of the conversations that I had at Mining Disrupt. Now, the first one is very clearly Bitcoin only. I say this, we say this on the show all the time. There's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. And the reason I'm bringing this one up today is very obviously everything in quote unquote crypto revolves around Bitcoin. It is Bitcoin only. That's the only thing you should be buying. There's nothing else in the quote unquote crypto space that comes close to Bitcoin. You know, a lot of people actually at the Mining Disrupt were coming up to me and talking about Zcash. And I'm just like very clearly like, it's a shitcoin, bro. Like, stay away from it. Though, if you're looking at the chart, it pumped. And I think there was a coordinated effort on Twitter by a lot of people to pump this and, you know, basically try to you know, dump their bags on retail. But the reason Bitcoin is different from everything else, and someone we were having this conversation, and they're like, but you know, this shitcoin has the same properties as Bitcoin. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not Bitcoin. The network effect of Bitcoin is completely different to everything else. No one can recreate it. Even if something like Zcash tries to recreate what Bitcoin is, the main point is the immaculate conception of Bitcoin. And with Zcash, everyone knows about the founder's tax there. You know, they baked in where the people that created it can you know, siphon money out to their own pockets. This is why we are Bitcoin only. There is Bitcoin and then there is everything else. There is Bitcoin and then there is shitcoin. So Bitcoin only is one of the defining memes. And remember the trigrams, you know, you try to get your movement boiled down into 3 words. I like that it was 2 words, you know, Bitcoin only. But anyways, and then the next one that I was thinking, especially in the face of a lot of the stuff I've been talking about recently on the show, captured Bitcoin versus self-sovereignty Bitcoin. And I kind of boiled it down to control over Bitcoin. Now, that has been one of the defining conversations right now. Now that institutions are here, who has control over Bitcoin? And I kind of boiled this down into a different framing. Like, what does control over Bitcoin mean to me? It's not just the institutions here. It's not like how a lot of people say, you know, that CIA or NSA created Bitcoin and they can do a backdoor on Bitcoin and they control Bitcoin. The code is open source. They can't do that. So what does control over Bitcoin mean to me? And I boiled it down to self-custody. This is why we have the self-custody meme. Now, I kind of like control over Bitcoin a little better than self-custodying your Bitcoin. It kind of sinks into what this is all about. It's like Bitcoin only, and then you want control over your Bitcoin, your personal Bitcoin. Because as we're seeing right now, the institutions are here. Wall Street is here, and they're creating these products. As I've been saying, and actually I didn't really create this, but it really popped in my head from my boy Adam over at Bitcoin Wow, is there's captured Bitcoin and then there's self-custody Bitcoin. But if you're being honest with ourselves, if we're being honest with ourselves, self-custodying Bitcoin hasn't really hit with the people. They're like, whatever, self-custodying Bitcoin, like, okay, nerd, shut up. It's really control over Bitcoin. That's what this is all about. Who controls the Bitcoin? Who controls your Bitcoin? Are you giving up your keys to institutions for Wall Street products? Are you allowing middlemen to get in between you and your Bitcoin? That's what this is all about. Bitcoin only, and then control over Bitcoin or control over your Bitcoin. That's what this is all about, guys. This is the 2 defining conversations in this whole Bitcoin movement is it's Bitcoin only. Everything else is a shitcoin. Everything else is designed to take your Bitcoin. And who controls the Bitcoin? Who controls your Bitcoin? Are you custodying your keys? Not your keys, not your cheese. See how these all kind of build on each other? And now the last one, which is the one that you guys have been giving us a lot of shit recently. It's number go up, guys. Like, that's what it's all about. But what is number go up? It's a 21 million hard cap. Again, infinity divided by 21 million. Now, I could expand on this and we can add more and more memes on this that define the movement. But I think if we're being honest, and I've said this so many times throughout the years, Bitcoiners are bad at marketing. We are bad at PR. And we do kind of recreate the same things over and over again. And then we're sitting there wondering why people don't like Bitcoin. Well, you see how I kind of took the same classic memes and now I'm just kind of doing some PR spin on them. It's like, it's Bitcoin only. That one's self-evident. It's control over Bitcoin. Who controls Bitcoin? Who's controlling your Bitcoin? That's the questions you should be asking yourself. And then, of course, number go up. You guys have been trolling me all day about being a fiat maxi. But, bro, 21 million hard cap. What does that mean in the context of 1 quintillion? Wait, is it quintillion? Quadrillion, sorry. 1 quadrillion of global wealth out there. 1 quadrillion divided by 21 million. Now, I don't necessarily believe that Bitcoin is going to take all of the world's wealth, but, you know, you could say half, you can say a third, whatever your conservative bet is. But that's what this is all about. That's why number go up has to happen. And further, with number go up means more people are coming into Bitcoin. So whether you think that the Bitcoin price in fiat dollars doesn't mean anything, that's cool. You know, or you're one of the more cypherpunk kind of a hardcore. You're like, there's way more interesting things about Bitcoin than the price. Yeah, I totally agree. But when you're looking at it from a normie's perspective, from someone coming into the space, the only thing they care about, bro, is if I put money in this, is it going to go up? That's where the greed kicks in. That's where the FOMO kicks in. It is number go up. There is a lot of properties around Bitcoin that I find super interesting besides the price. But we are here on YouTube. We are here on social media, on Rumble, on Twitter. And people don't come into the space for self-sovereignty. They don't come into the space for permissionless, you know, protocols. Like they don't come for the network effects per se. Like they don't come for the things that you like. They come because they ask themselves, what can this technology do for me? Most people are struggling right now. Most people are getting cooked by inflation. Most people are having a hard time putting groceries on the table. This is how you tap into the psychology of people out there. If people are struggling, don't sell them on ending the Fed. Don't sell them necessarily on permissionless protocols unless they're talking about CBDCs. People just want to be able to save their wealth and survive and further get rich. Why do you think one of the earliest best memes of Bitcoin or crypto was win Lambo? Because everyone, no, I wouldn't say everyone, but people like the idea of being wealthier. They like the idea of getting rich. Honestly, he's not my favorite person out there, but that crypto Nick guy, that choose rich meme, that was a good ass meme. Too bad he's a shit coiner, but that's a good meme, guys. And so look, you can define this movement however you want, but I think for me, when I was thinking about this last night, kind of continuing the conversations I had at Mining Disrupt, it all boils down to Bitcoin only, who controls the Bitcoin, and number go up. Those are the big defining things that I think most people can latch on to. Is you only want to buy Bitcoin, you need to self-custody your Bitcoin, and then a 21 million hard cap. These are tried and true memes. They've been around for a long time. Now, the goal for you is how do you tailor these memes for your friends and your family? As we've been covering all year long, there is no retail. Now, you can ask yourself, why isn't there any retail? I mean, the price has been dead all year, bro. What are you like? What are we talking about? What are this conversation? Like there isn't anything to get a normie into Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been stagnant. And then further, like we just covered in the news, and then you have a media attack around Bitcoin from legacy media. They're making this whole industry look like a joke. Now, some people have been arguing in the chat that Trump's doing that himself, and it's up to us to kind of distinguish the noise from the signal. Most people are struggling out there. I fundamentally believe in fix the money, fix the world. I fundamentally believe that one of the main problems in the world right now is that we have a broken money, that the powers that be can just print money out of thin air, that we literally have paper money, IOU debt government words as our money, and everyone thinks this is the status quo. Everyone thinks this has been happening forever. Everyone thinks this is the only way it can happen. Well, Bitcoin's here to essentially show that that's not the case. There is an alternative. There is an exit route. There is a better world if you just take that first initial leap. Like the game has always been accumulating Bitcoin. Get off zero. What's that one meme? The only winning move is not to play. You have to get into Bitcoin. And as we're seeing, it's starting to take over the world. It's starting to become the defining conversation. It's starting to become the macro asset. It's in my opinion, it's the only thing people should be holding. Now, that's a blanket statement. And of course, there's, there is reasons why people might want to hold different Bitcoin exposure products. Personally, just want to custody Bitcoin. You just want to hold spot Bitcoin. This is the safest bet to withstand whatever crazy stuff is going to happen towards the end of this decade. It is holding Bitcoin in custody, self-custody, under your own control. This is how you can make sure that no matter what craziness happens down the pipeline, you are going to be okay. This is what it's all about. Bitcoin only, who controls the Bitcoin, and 21 million hard cap. Number go up. This is how we win, guys. Now, of course, the cypherpunks out there, the devs out there that are building the protocols so that we can ensure what we are building is going to do what we want it to do, what we think it's going to do, they're super important. The Bitcoin miners out there that are hashing transactions, super important. The node runners that are verifying transactions, super important. All of these things work together. This is how we win. And then us talking heads, as my boys over at the Bugle have been saying, the pleb slop creators. This is how we get more people into Bitcoin. We have to capture their imaginations. People are struggling. They're looking for a better way. Tailor your message so that people understand what is going on. That's all this is about. Anyways, guys, kind of ranted. Let me see what the chat's saying. Chat. Let's go. Shouts out Josh Nolan. He's been trolling me all day. We got you, bro. All right. Anyways, you already know the deal, boys. We will be back tomorrow, roughly 12:40 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Of course, like, subscribe. We're dropping all kinds of content. Comment on the show. Let us know what you think about the show. Let me know what you think about the rant. I pay attention more to the chat than the comments on YouTube, but I'm listening. I'm listening to you guys. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you. I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Let's see what happens. I don't think the bull run is over. I'll say it here. I'll eat crow if I'm wrong, but I don't think the bull run is over. I think this is the time to stack sats. I think this is a time that we'll look back on this and be like, remember 2025? That year kind of sucked, but it ended good and we won. And this is how we win, guys. Anyways, I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Peace out. It's your boy Opti. Until next time, this has been Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.